Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today is the 24th anniversary of 9/11, 2001. It's hard to believe that it is 24 years ago um, that this probably one of the most horrific terrorist attacks in the world, if not certainly in the U.S., ever happened. I hope to never be proven wrong in that. There have been many since. There have been many before this, even right there in the World Trade Center, and even 9 years before this happened, and but never anything like this before or since. And let's not discount the fact that there is a tremendous amount of terror being heaped upon people around the world right now by certain countries, governments of certain countries, who are attempting to take the lives of entire peoples, to commit a genocide. That is not to diminish that in any way, because that is ongoing, it is intentional, and it is more pervasive than we can ever understand or will admit in some cases. But we're going to talk about this. This because I chose it was sitting in the list for so long, and then it got picked like a couple months ago or weeks ago, and I just said nope, we're this close, I might as well do the episode on 9/11. This is from 2021, the 20th anniversary. It is a series, and much like the One Day in America documentaries from National Geographic. They did one for the JFK assassination and for the Oklahoma City bombing. This has more than 3 episodes. It's 6 episodes. It's that big. And the first episode is longer than all the other ones. Most of them are about 45, 46 minutes long. The first one is an hour and 15 minutes long. And that's the only one I watched. That's all I could take in one sitting. Um, because if you're alive back when this happened, you know where you were. It's just like the JFK assassination, man landing on the moon, both bad and good, all those different things, all those there's points where everybody's looking in the same direction, um, thinking about the same thing, for the most part. Um, Sort of binds us together in some ways, and this certainly turned the heads of pretty much everybody in the world. Uh, and as divided as a nation as we are now, and even when as divided as we were back then, it brought together people of all kinds to uh, hope for the best and work toward hopefully making things better. But what it really taught us is that America is not invulnerable. That we are not just this great power that nobody will dare attack. We always saw ourselves as invincible, and even though a lot of the terrorism today in America happens from within, um, this is a moment where people who rightfully or unrightfully um, believe that we are the cause of their problems. In many cases, we are. We arm them against themselves or against their foes. We arm them, we arm their enemies, and we let them fight. And then our government or some other government profits. In this case, though, we're going to set aside all that. This documentary is from National Geographic, and there was tons of documentaries back when this documentaries and tributes and concerts and just memorials, they were endless as the dust literally began to settle on this horrific act. I still have some of the DVDs. Back then they didn't have streaming services, so you'd kind of get this memorial kind of, you'd buy a DVD. You'd go to Best Buy or Circuit City. Yes, it was Circuit City. And you'd buy a DVD to sort of never forget, became the term that we all used, to never forget what happened and what it was all about, to solidify this into history. And yeah, people made money off of it. But But in a sense, it's the kind of thing I always wondered. Well, I have the DVD now. I can look back and remind myself that this is something that is, one, hopefully unique and never will happen again, and two, just remember the sacrifices, remember those lost. I worked with a woman whose father died at the Pentagon. It messed her up for a good long time. I didn't know her until like a year after it had happened, but it was still fresh in her mind, of course. And I got to. It's the kind of thing where when you talk about this, everybody has a story of where they were. I lived in Pennsylvania at the time, so I was not far away. When I grew up in Pennsylvania, I always had the desire to go to New York City. It's where the superheroes were. When I was little, it's like, oh, Spider-Man's here. Oh, here's where Avengers Mansion. I imagine the Baxter Building is right about this spot, and over here would be Yancey Street, where the Thing grew up, where Ben Grimm lived. I thought, oh, maybe if I'd look up, I'd see Spider-Man swinging by, or Iron Man flying through the skies. And yeah, that was, to me, it was both a fictional and a very real city. And when I had the opportunity to go on bus rides and trips with groups of friends, and eventually just drive up there for the day every so often. It was not a long drive. I'd find some parking, take the train over from Jersey City, and I'd always come up at the World Trade Center. That would be the first place I set foot in Manhattan. I'd walk out onto the promenade kind of thing there, and I'd look up and I'd see these two massive towers. I had nightmares after this happened. Maybe I couldn't call them dreams. This wasn't like I was terrified, but I would see myself walking in the dark, and I'd step out into the light, and I'd look up, and I'd see those towers again. For a long time after that. It had an effect on everybody. I was safely sitting at home in my bed. I didn't even wake up. I'd been out late the night before, and I didn't even wake up until after the towers had already fallen. When I was prompted to turn on the TV, I didn't move from that TV for the rest of the day. So, that's my story. I was far away and safe. Yes, the plane was crashed in further west in Pennsylvania. Another crashed down at the Pentagon, and we had two in the towers. And like I said, there's plenty of documentaries that show the news reports and the different, how ABC saw it, how CBS saw it, how NBC covered it. We had all those types of things. CNN and everything else, they tried to analyze it, they tried to break it down, they tried to figure out the reason why and how it went in and what caused the buildings to fall and all those other things. And of course, you're going to find things on YouTube and amongst other places that are full of controversial takes on everything, conspiracy theories. That is not what this is about. That is not what I'm interested at all in watching. This is from the point of view of the people who survived and the people that were lost. They speak of the people who were lost, but this is taken from the point of view of the fire department, the New York Fire Department, the New York Police Department, and the people that were able to escape the buildings in time. Again, the first episode, so far, by the time, this is an hour and 15 minutes, by the time the first episode ends, the buildings had not fallen yet. And that's the unique take on this, is that if you suddenly gave this series to somebody who was not alive back then and doesn't know anything about 9/11. They just hear there's a 9/11 thing. They just woke up from a coma, or they just never cared to pay attention to history. They were born. They're not even 25 years old at this point. You threw this in front of them, it's a horror story. It's terrifying the way this is depicted. You see men in uniform, heavy uniforms, their firemen coats and their oxygen tanks and rope hoses flung over their shoulders as they walk up more than 70 flights of stairs because the elevators are out, trying to rescue people, trying to break open doors that might have been jammed shut, and find people who are alive, while people are plummeting from the outside of the building. Like I said, I had seen plenty of documentaries in the past. This shook me. I saw things that the news never dared to show. They talked about it, but I don't recall ever seeing it on the news at the time, and I watched a lot of it that day. And there's plenty that's come out since. There's footage that's used in this that I had seen before, but they're like some back then. It's 2001. Nobody's got an iPhone. Nobody's got a smartphone. Nobody's filming everything like we do with every other thing in our lives. If you're filming something, it's with maybe a digital camera, maybe a better type of video camera, maybe because you're the media, but they weren't as prevalent, and they certainly didn't have the memory capacity to keep filming for what seemed like hours, but was just barely an hour from start to finish, from hit to fall, little more than an hour. To be able to be filming that much and trying to be on the spot, and some of that footage is right in the middle of it. Some of it's with the fire department within the building, and part of me is like, why is there somebody following them around with a camera? Is it a special day or something beforehand because they were just being followed by somebody who I guess was the media, talking about how there was a gas leak down the street, 14 blocks away, and they were accompanying them, and they just were with them at the time when everything broke loose. All of it's unsettling. They cut away to people being interviewed and talking about this and remembering the moments as things happened, but a lot of this is the raw, rough footage from those days. One of the most terrifying shots. I don't recall ever seeing it from this angle. I've seen the helicopter footage. I've seen the streets, just people weeping and screaming and running. But we really don't get to the running and screaming part until next episode, I'm sure. There's a shot where the person seems to have crouched down on the sidewalk, just take a break, and they have the camera still pointed up towards the towers. The north tower, I believe, is one of the towers is hidden behind the other one, when suddenly, it's just filming, and there's a man in the foreground sort of sitting and resting, and then the second plane hits, and it's not scripted, of course. It is. It's. I know what's going to happen, and one of the best parts about this and about this documentary is that it doesn't lead you. It doesn't lead you necessarily into what's happening next. So the person who has no idea what's going on here, the young person who never looked at history or never cared to know what 9/11 is, or has no mental or spiritual connection to any of this, will not see it coming. It doesn't say, well, this happened this time, but let's take a look at the footage. No. You're seeing it as these people experienced it, step by step. And it's not to the moment, but it is definitely, it doesn't reveal, like, oh, there's this plane and that plane and the other plane and 4 planes, and it doesn't also try to figure out, explain away, or try to, who did this? It's literally, you get to see from the people from the ground, they don't know what's going on. The firemen, the fire department, the police department, they don't know what is happening. A plane flew into the World Trade Center. Okay, but why? And the thing is, when it comes to the FDNY, they don't have to know why. They just know people are in danger and they have to go up and help them. Actually, a lot of them, they don't have to. It's the idea that, it's their job. It's what they do. I'm sure they were terrified. But they also knew they were walking to their deaths. Many of them were walking to their deaths. None of them could have conceived that these buildings would fall. They just knew there was fires. And they were there to put out the fires and rescue the people, get the doors open, get the people out, tell them to get down the stairs, 70 floors or more. There was people on the 89th floor that some of these guys lost their lives to save. Because there's an interview with a woman in the first episode who was on the 89th floor. They had 70 people on that floor, maybe more, maybe less. I don't know if they had other floors, but there's a group of guys that would hit every floor they could, get those doors open, and tell the people to get down the stairs and run. And they went up to the next floor as they did that, and the next floor, and the next floor, and they never came back. There are people who were pretty close to the bottom, who had no idea what was going on outside. They were in the kitchen, in the freezer, and working on stuff. Coming out, there's a guy who tells a story of trying to figure out what's going on when he's prompted to go outside, and he finds the ground littered with body parts everywhere. Some of the footage I did not see before or hear before is, well, they didn't cut away when they show some footage of people plummeting to their deaths, people who jumped rather than burn alive. Again, nobody knows that these buildings are going to fall, but they know they're trapped between flames and an open window. I can't imagine anything that's going on. I'm safe in Pennsylvania. I'm watching it on a big screen TV. These people are in the middle of it. Some people are trapped. Some people have the opportunity to walk away. Some people walk up those stairs to help. This whole situation gives us a look into without even mentioning terrorism. They intermix this footage with the towers trying to communicate with planes that have been hijacked, and they don't get a response. And as we get closer and closer to the end of the episode, you get to hear the people's messages to their loved ones, whether they're inside a building or on a plane, sending out messages, and all of it's messages of love. None of it's, go get him. Nobody knew it was going to go, get revenge. No, it was all, I love you. It was all that. So, yeah, acts done out of hate, diffused by words of love and actions of self-sacrifice. That's what 9/11 taught us about who we are as a nation, at least at that time. What we are now is something else, but that is not the point of this episode, so I'm not going to talk about that. I'd say watch this. Like I said, the first episode's an hour and 15. The others are about 45 minutes. 5 other episodes are about 45 minutes. If you want to, they're not easy to watch. It is not for the squeamish, because this is not a reenactment. There are no reenactments in this. There's no overly dramatic music that is, building up, coming next. There's no voiceover. There's no narrator. Well, what you'll find when they walk around the corner, you won't believe. Or there's no building up the action and the music, and it gets really intense, and then cut to commercial. And then they do the same thing again to build up the intensity. No, other reality shows do that garbage. Some documentaries do that garbage. Will the shark get that person? That's not like this at all. If anything, there's a low ethereal music it's in the bed of this entire thing that shows the uneasiness of this, that really underpins the uneasiness you feel when watching this, but is not manipulative. You don't need to be manipulated to understand what's going on here. I'd highly recommend this. If you're even going to just watch the first episode, to remember where you were and share it with somebody who has no comprehension of what happened back then. It will give them nightmares, more than likely, unless they don't have a sense of empathy whatsoever. It's not something for little children to watch, but it's something that I think would be worthwhile. Next year will be the 25th anniversary, to share with younger people in your family. to understand what people are capable of, both bad and good as a result of that evil. So, this is my soft-spoken episode. Hopefully you had the volume up loud enough to be able to even hear what I had to say. But I'm going to add this, and hopefully I get around to watching it. I'm going to add it to my watch list because I want to fully understand. This second episode here is South Tower. The South Tower. And that is where everything changes. Even more so. This is, one of those things where the light, like, the the words don't come out of my mouth. It's where the world changed. This day, the world changed incredibly. And I've only been back to the memorial one time, and it was barely just done. The museum wasn't even open yet, but I got to go to the places, the falls, the water memorial where the towers stood. I've been there for that. And I'm going to tell you, if you've watched this long, just to see a grown man try to keep it together, feel free to comment about your experience, where you were. Anybody who decides to spit out conspiracy theories, I'm just going to delete. This is not the place for that, and nobody takes you seriously. I'm just telling you, this is not a joke. This is not. I realize a lot of people cope with these things in different ways, and the idea of coming up with conspiracy theories one way or another to say this is why this happened is a search for trying to find means to find reasons for why things happen the way they do. I understand that. I get it. But leave the conspiracy theorists for some other channel. Don't want it. But hopefully you will never forget. And remember those who sacrificed their lives. Take a trip to New York City if you can and visit the memorial. Maybe not today. It's going to probably be kind of busy unless you want to be part of this ceremony that they're probably having or have had already at this point by the time you see this. Yeah. I'd say definitely take in the memorial, the museum, if you get a chance, and the area around that. When I went to visit the first time, beyond just walking around the things, I visited the small church that was still standing that had been there for hundreds of years, and had set up memorials and history, not just of the church, but of just everything around it. New York is nowhere, the places in the United States are nowhere near as old as, say, Europe and Japan and Asia and Africa, but it's definitely got its unique history, and now this is a humongous part of it. This is American history, and it's worthwhile remembering so that we can make choices to prevent things like this from ever happening again. Even though we can't control the people, we can hopefully make choices that would make people not want to do this again. That may sound naive, but it's something that's worth doing, or at least trying. Let's pick tomorrow's episode. 125. Is that? Okay. No, 125 is... I knew that seemed familiar. Okay. I tried to set it so it wouldn't pick the same numbers twice, but apparently it's doing that. 125 is already picked. Let's see what it was. It is The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. That was back in episode 2074. So I'm going to pick another one. This is how I do it. If you haven't seen my videos before, and you're all the way this far, 99, you're this far, 24 minutes in, all the stuff I watch is random for the most part. Unlike, certain movie premieres, like we had Lilo and Stitch or the Thunderbolts, those films, when they first appear on Disney Plus, that's when I watch them. And I also have a Sunday series celebrating Disneyland's 70th anniversary. But yeah, for the most part, everything I watch here, and I'm down to the last few months of episodes, of consecutive episodes. I've been doing this for almost 6 years, if you don't know. Oh, right. I don't know if I should do this, because I've already done this series, but there are new episodes. And they're treating it like, you know what, no, I'm not going to do it, because I've already done this. It's Phineas and Ferb. I don't need to do the new seasons, and this is added in here, and I know it says new season. I only added that after I realized that I wanted to make that differentiation. I've already done a Phineas and Ferb series, and their specials, and they're with the Marvel and Star Wars and shorts and things like that. So I'm going to have to pick another one. Sorry. It doesn't go list. Usually it's one number and done. 131. Please be something that I can use. Yes. Oh, I know this one. I've watched this one already, and I already know which episode I'm going to watch. It's a series. It's a docu-series, but it's very different from this. Very different. And I actually know the guy who narrated it. So we'll talk about that tomorrow, though. This is called The Toys That Built America. So yeah. That's what we're going to watch tomorrow on a totally different docu-series track. This is going to be fun. I believe I'm going to watch the Star Wars one if it's available. And I've already seen it, but I'm going to watch it. The Toys That Built America is what we're watching next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.